everybody that's listening in, everybody who's watching, this is Thilly Mokete, and she's going to be speaking on older persons and how the social services are helping these people to maintain their medication and stay healthy. Okay, Thilly, it's over to you, my dear.
Thank you, Patrick, and good morning to you all that are watching, and welcome. The reason why I decided to focus on older persons this morning is on the 1st of October this month, it was an International Day on Older Persons. So, who are older persons? That's the first question. And I think we all have got an idea or a clue of who older persons are. Some of us are living and staying with older persons. Others are looking after older persons. You know, when you walk in the streets or you go to the shops, you do bump into an older person or older persons. So older persons are all the people that are 60 years of age and above. These are the older persons.
Oh.
Yes. Next slide, Patrick.
Okay.
In South Africa, according to the South African Human Rights Commission, older persons comprise 8% of our total population. And of the 8% of the older persons, 76% of them live below the poverty line. They are unable to eat well, to look well and after themselves, etc. And this means 3.1 million of them depend on old age pension grant. That being the case, they are going to be unable to, get medication over the counter or get medication from pharmacies, except to depend on public healthcare system, which is about 70% of them. So 76 and 70%, they sort of correlate. So only a small percentage of older persons or the elderly are able to access proper medical health care via medical aids. Any questions, Patrick?
No, everything sounds very good and perfectly in line. Thank you very much, Thilly.
You're most welcome, Patrick. Next slide, please. So the fact that people are older or elderly, old age comes with a whole host of issues that complicate their lives. The elderly, they suffer from high blood pressure. Some of them have got diabetes. And arthritis is also a condition that makes their life or their lives miserable. They're unable to walk properly, to sit for longer hours, to even turn in their beds, or to grab a glass of water or feed themselves, bath themselves. They are facing a whole host of problems. These are the conditions of the older people. Some of them can't see well because of aging structure of their eyes. A lot of them mentally are not well. Either they are suspicious or always anxious. And they are, yes, immobile to an extent that they depend on wheelchairs. They're sitting in wheelchairs and they need somebody to push them or to wheel them. And there will be those that will be using crutches to walk around or to access, help, like walking from one room to the other, to an extent that we need to be having our eyes open all the time when there is an older person wanting to cross the road or wanting to get into a shower or assist them as much as we possibly can.
Wow.
Yes, Patrick.
Wow. Next slide.
Next slide. Thank you, Patrick. Yes, the fact that they are old doesn't mean that they are not part of the society. And we saying they are not just part of the society, but it is vital that they are members that are contributing with passing on the culture in our societies. And a lot of older people actually still look after young children, because I don't know, Patrick, but in what we're seeing out there in our communities, especially in Black communities, a lot of older people are the ones that are looking after young people, because either their parents have passed on due to HIV and AIDS or accidents, or they are lying in bed and are unable to take care of their own, or they older people that are living in the most rural parts of South Africa are still looking after little ones because their parents have come to the suburbia of South Africa to work. So they have to see to it that they look after the young ones. And as a result, they shouldn't be discriminated against because it's illegal to do so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Quite sad, eh?
Very sad, and to an extent that some of them have to work up until they are in the ages of 80, maybe, just doing the a little bit of contribution here and there, instead of looking after themselves, relaxing, sitting back, and appreciating their age, aging gracefully. They are unable to do so because of the little ones that are there, that are full of energy, that need to be looked after. Otherwise, they might get into trouble if there's nobody looking after them or seeing to it that they do the right things.
Wow, Lily.
Yeah.
Wow. Next slide.
Next slide, please. Okay. Older people have got different needs. Like I said, that the 8% of them in South Africa are part of us. So they have different needs. There are people that are older that are still able to walk, that are still able to see, but that percentage is very, very small. The greater number is the number that has got a lot of challenges.
Yes.
A lot of challenges.
Wow.
So, yeah. So let's go to the next slide and let's see what the needs are. They have got a right to health, like all of us have got a right to health. They need to be cared for. Because they are sick, they are weak. They need somebody to help them with their meals, with their hygienic needs at home. And if they go to the clinics, they need care in the public health institutions or in the hospital. So it is important that they are assisted and treated with care and love as we mix with them, as we see them. Be they at church, be they in public spaces, be they in our clinics or in our hospitals, they should be given first preference wherever they are.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. we always have to keep in mind as public health care workers or private healthcare workers for that matter, that we respect them. We change our attitudes and look at them as people that have to be given respect.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. And assisting an older person doesn't take much energy. I mean, when they have got mobility problems, it's just to push them, if they're on a wheelchair, across to the next service or to the next room as and when they need to be wheeled around.
Yes.
It is a matter of when you come across them, maybe in hospitals or in our own homes, that we refer them, we see to it that they get assistance when they can see, and not just leave them to their own peril.
Yes.
It's important that when they age, that we realize that they are not going to be hearing very well.
Yes.
So you speak to the individual face to face, and you see to it that they are able to read your lips if they can see very well, because they cannot hear properly. And it is not a joke. We just need to do the right thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So they do have health needs that are important.
And these are all health providers or healthcare providers, such as the caregivers that actually
Such as caregivers.
They fulfill this role.
That such as caregivers even at home.
Yes.
At times.
I see.
Yes.
I see. Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Next screen.
Next slide, please. Okay. So they also, like all of us again, Patrick, they have got a right to human dignity. They should not be abused. They shouldn't be ill-treated. Doing so, it's like taking away their human dignity. If we treat them, if we abuse them, if we neglect them, if we don't care for them, then it is not right. So once that is spotted, whether it's in the neighborhood or in a clinic or in the bank or in the shops, that must be reported as soon as possible, so that the police can act quicker.
Yes.
Yeah. In South Africa, older people haven't been cared for by communities. And it's not all communities. A lot of communities are doing well and they're looking after their own. But some of the older people in some communities are not being cared for very well, because you'd hear that an older person's older age grant has been, taken by younger ones, the ones that she or he is looking after, putting bread on the table for the whole family. And then once she goes to bed, and then they grab all that amount of money. Patrick, it's not
very
fair.
Sad. It's not fair.
Very, very sad.
Wow.
Next slide, please. Okay. Another right or need like ours is the right to food and social security, as well as water. It is sad to realize that especially the older people that live in the most rural parts of South Africa cannot access water, cannot access food properly. So they have to buy water or drink with animals from the same well, which is not correct. And it's undignified. And at the same time, it's a matter of they have to send somebody to get water on their behalf because they can't walk long distances. They can carry big drums, or I mean, even a 5 liter water bottle is heavy for an older person. So they do suffer quite drastically from food shortage and the fact that they are unemployed and they are retired. They can't access a lot of what you and I really, see as easy to can go and find.
Yes.
So and remember again, Patrick, that their money, the older person's grant, is very little to can sustain them or sustain them and their families.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Because the
actually
cost of
quite
living
sad.
go. I beg your pardon.
I said, and that's actually quite sad. It's not fair on them because that money is basically meant for them and
For
not
them.
not to sustain another few family members as well.
Nah.
Yeah,
No, it's meant only for them.
yes.
And with the cost of living skyrocketing these days, that amount of money gets even smaller and smaller by the days.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, next slide.
Next slide, please. Okay. And what is it that we can do, or caregivers can do out there? You know what? We as Sauba can encourage them and support them to do is to create gardens in their spaces or in our spaces.
Yes.
I mean, even if we have decided to pave and have paving bricks, you can still get old tires and plant in those old tires.
Yes.
You can still get old containers, hang them and plant in those old containers. You don't have to have a field, a soccer field, in order to say, I have a garden or I need this size of a place for a garden.
Yes.
The smaller containers still do, will still do you well.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
And we need to work hand in hand with all the existing structures out there, like NGOs. So is an NGO. Let's work together with the people out there. All and the more we work together, all the better for all of us. Because alone they cannot manage. Alone we can manage. But if we hold hands together, we will win. Faith-based organizations also do assist in a lot of ways by giving food parcels, but we don't want to create that what do they call it in your language, Patrick? We don't want to create not necessarily a burden, but people must be able to stand up on their own and start doing things. And that dependency culture. Yes. The dependency culture must go away. We need to start doing things on our own.
Yes.
Just so that even the faith-based organizations can attend to one or two people that need assistance, but not for people to line up all the time to get food parcels. They cannot be issuing out food parcels year in and year out.
And that must be very degrading for the people that are receiving those food parcels.
It is.
Because they feel they're a burden on society.
They feel like a burden on the society. All right. The community-based organizations, the carers that walk from house to house, they will also feel like they're being abused because people are just sitting at home and doing nothing. And yet there is space for them to can plant or start a small garden. Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I see you got a South African older
Older Persons Forum. Yeah.
Who's
Yeah.
that?
Beg your
Who
pardon?
runs that? Who runs that forum?
It's also an NGO. It's run by older people that are still mobile. Older people whose mental health is still intact. Older people who are able to can move from one place to the other without hindrance, and older people that have got aims and objectives of assisting all those that are unable to help themselves.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Just may I ask a question, Thilly?
Yes, Patrick.
I see this is a very, very responsible job that is being given to the NGOs. And then, of course, there are the those who are helping hands, those who are the caregivers. How does one become a caregiver?
How does one become a caregiver?
Do you belong to an organization? I mean, and then they fund you or help you to stay alive, or is it all voluntary?
It's not only voluntary, but they do get some stipend from the government, especially the community-based organizations and the NGOs. They do get an amount of money so that the caregivers are able to walk from house to house. They are encouraged to assist as much as they can, and they have got a leader or a group of leaders that would, give them like, what shall I call it? Let's say a list of homes for maybe me to visit, and then report back to them what I found in different homes.
Oh.
So each and every one of them has got a list that he or she visits, and they report to their seniors. So yes, community-based organizations are doing a lot out there. They find children that are not immunized. They find in different homes. In some homes, they find older people that don't even are neglected or are not taking the medication, or they need to be brought to the clinic or be referred to the clinic. So all these community-based and NGO organizations, they're doing a lot of work out there.
I see.
Yes.
And another question is the funding adequate?
Funding is never adequate, but the little bit that they get, at least they also put bread on their table, because they remember they are unemployed.
Yes.
There is a lot of youth unemployment there, and this at least keeps them busy, and they are able to work and manage their own lives. Yeah. And
So
then these days, sorry, Patrick.
So they are
these days they work. Yeah, mainly youth, and they work hand in glove with a nearby clinic where they report and they get information on how to handle the older people. And on some days, the clinic staff, including the CBOs, the community-based organizations, come together to create awareness in the communities.
I see. And how often do they come out to bring awareness?
I think every month, according to the calendar of activities, every month they have something that they must speak about.
Oh, okay.
To communities, yeah.
And are these meetings well attended?
They are well attended, they are well run, and they are functioning very well.
Okay.
Some of them are so smart and strong that you feel like, oh, this group should be trained to become nurses or or to become social workers. From the groups, you are able to see that these people are so dedicated that, you know, they would find either a child that is 8 years or 10 years who hasn't been to school yet, because
Okay.
they come from far. Either they come from Mozambique or Malawi, or they come from Limpopo and they don't even have a birth certificate. We've come across such problems, and they
And
pick them up like nothing.
do you help them to get birth certificates?
Yes, they need to be referred to the nearest Home Affairs office and through the social workers. Because remember, the social workers are also part of the community-based organizations.
Yes.
Yes. So once they are picked up or spotted, then they're referred to the nearest social workers who will take it up from there.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very, very much for this information, Thilly. I'll be very, very honest with you. I was very, very, very unaware of what's going on out there, and I'm basically only the producer of this program, not the content. I don't produce the content. You produce the content, but I find myself so interested in what you are speaking. Sometimes I think it's none of my business, but I think it is my business because it's my country too. But then, so I'm learning a lot. This information you are sharing with me today, I've never heard of it before. And you know, in my socioeconomic sector, you could say, that I live in, we don't know about these things. Really, we don't know about them. And if something can, if the normal everyday people in my society or sector of society were made aware of this, I think there would be a lot more empathy and a lot more understanding of what's going on in the country.
You are right, Patrick. You're right, Patrick.
I think that's something we should consider. You know, how can we broaden this knowledge? How can we get this knowledge to land in the ears of those who are not suffering from this malady, if I can put it that way? Yeah.
No, you are right, Patrick.
What about help? You know, financial help, and I know a lot of Christian organizations that would be able to fulfill a role here. But the problem, as I think possibly in that respect, is the distance they would have to travel to go and service the elderly people, for instance, and the sick, the chronically ill. And that's why the people that are on the ground where they live are the most suitable for that work. But I think still funding and, you know, but not only just putting funds in willy-nilly, but just putting, you know, making sure that the funds are actually really that they are ending up in the people's hands that are doing the work. And then there would have to be a mechanism to maybe to check whether they are doing the work and have some kind of a feedback system so that we can uplift and upgrade our elderly people. I'm just thinking aloud this morning, Thilly.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Thank you for thinking aloud, because all what you're saying makes sense, Patrick. You can imagine if the funds were channeled in an appropriate fashion and they were looked well after, a lot of our elderly wouldn't be, you know, in experiencing the problems that we are reiterating here. Because remember, even when they get to the public hospitals or the clinics, if there is no medication, what happens to them? They turn back. I mean, there are times when the pharmacist would be saying there is no medication, the clinic didn't receive medication, or the manager of the clinic would be borrowing medication from the nearest clinic, which is it's degrading.
Very much so. Very much so.
It's degrading, Patrick.
Well, yes.
And yet,
I'm
yes,
sure. Sorry. Carry on.
yes. No, I was saying, and yet there is money budgeted for health care, public health care, for an example. We get a huge slice of the budget, including the education, but still we do experience a lot of problems.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
My goodness. Yeah.
Mm.
It's basic management principles that need to be applied so that those people who really need it actually get what they need.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me that the caregivers, they are key. They are the keys, and they should be looked after and organized. And not only that, but trained and given.
Trained, yes.
Yes. And taught.
Yeah, they need to be trained. They need to be encouraged. They need to be supported as much as we possibly can, so that they continue.
Thilly, are you part of the WhatsApp group where all the other speakers are present?
At the moment?
Yes.
For Saupa?
Yes.
Oh, I know that I speak to you and Mawinsi. I'm not aware of the WhatsApp group. If you could just add my name there.
I would love to. I thought by myself, maybe you were on the group, but you're not very active. I will add you to that, because from next week onwards, I will be posting the links to all these talks that we are having, you and I, onto a platform called Spotify. Have you ever heard of Spotify?
Spotify, yes.
Yes. So these talks that we've had just now, only audio, not the visuals, are going to go onto Spotify, and I'll put the link on that email on that WhatsApp group, and then you must click, then you can go and have a listen to what we've been talking about, and listen to what the other girls have been talking about. There's some very interesting, very interesting information that's being spread abroad at the moment. And
thank you.
Yes, and of course we also got the YouTube, but YouTube is a little bit more data intensive. It's like the same what we're using right now. It's going to be that kind of data that you need. But Spotify would be like a telephone call. Okay.
Thank you.
So have you completed your presentation?
Yes, I have. If you can just add me on that WhatsApp group, Patrick, I would appreciate it.
You won't believe me, but I'm just so pleased with this presentation for my own purposes, for my own thinking, because there are so many problems, and the people that see the problems, they should have solutions, but not everybody is sharing the solutions. And you did this morning. And I thank you very much for that, because that gives me hope. That gives me hope. That we are
I appreciate it.
And I want to tell you that this presentation was beautiful. My congratulations, or my commendation to the young girl that helped you put it together. Tell her that I said it's beautiful. It really, I love the color scheme, and it's neat, and it really talks to me. Thank you very much.
I appreciate, Patrick. Thank you so much. God bless
you. God bless. Bye.
Bye, Patrick.
Bye.
See you next week.
Okay, ma'am.
Bye.
Okay, now I've got to get this stop share, and then we end it.